Welcome to the 3G Fitness Podcast,
where three generations of trainers come together to discuss all things fitness related.
Join us as we share insights, tips, and stories from our diverse experiences as we unravel the secrets of staying fit.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Cisco. This is the 3G's Fitness Podcast.
I'm Coach Michael.
And I'm Coach Kyle.
And today, ladies and gentlemen, this is a disclaimer. We are going to talk about a touchy subject. Now, we're not here to offend anybody on this. We're just here to share our opinions. Our opinions are not meant to be correct, nor our opinions are not to be meant wrong. This is just what we feel about this. A few of us have had talks with some clients at our gym, and we were just talking about the subject of transgenders in competition, in sports competition, and what do we feel, and what's our opinion on that? Okay, so I'll start off first, and I'm gonna keep it very simple with us. We usually are talking about men that transition to women that compete with other women. And I always say that is an unfair advantage. And I'm going to break down the science into a little bit. But what do you guys feel about that, about specifically men that transition to women competing with other women? Fair or unfair?
Oh, I definitely think it's unfair.
Okay.
For sure. I'm definitely on the same
boat. So we all agree on that. Like I said, this is our opinion. All right. And the main reason why I'm going to stick with that opinion is I think Mike was telling me the other day, and I'll lead you into it because I like what you said. You said that there's the women body and the man body. Same amount of bones.
Yeah. Bones, 206.
They both have the same amount of bones.
Muscle, a little over between 600 and 650.
Both have the same amount of muscle.
Now, let's talk about the fact that testosterone, it's higher on men.
Typically about 10 to 20 times higher than the females.
Estrogen is higher in women, lower in men. Okay, so I think they call it blanketing, is when they lower the testosterone from a transgender.
Okay.
And so they feel that equals them. But to me, muscle mass comes into a play.
And that's the main thing, is I feel like the core of our information today is going to be testosterone, right?
Ish. Yeah.
Yeah, testosterone-ish. Pretty much. That's the main thing. Because when I was talking to my specific client that was asking about this, I told my client, I was like, regardless of how much, hormone-reduced therapy someone goes through for testosterone, they're still going to have a higher amount.
Yeah. It really doesn't reach the levels that, females would normally be at.
Yes, your body produces testosterone. Now, what effect does testosterone have on muscle?
Strength and growth.
What else? What else on performance? It makes you faster.
Endurance-wise, it makes you faster.
Generally, men have higher VO2 maxes, so their work capacity.
And so that's why I believe that's an unfair advantage when a man transitions into a woman. Okay. What else have you found out, Mike? I know you said you were kind of looking more into it, and
there are not a lot. Okay, and obviously, there are more men turning into women and women turning to men in sports.
Got it. Yeah.
And in college, as well in high school, there's it's a fine line, but there's some strict rules, against that. But if you go back and you look at the college level, I think Renee Richardson was one of the first ones that did the transition over. And she was pretty, pretty strong and stuff. So now, the Olympics, NCAA have strict rules on it. I think there's only 5 in college out of a little over 5,000 colleges. There's like only 5. And if I'm not mistaken, they can't compete at that top level competition. And in the Olympics, it's even stricter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's mainly because in February 5, there's an executive order 14201 titled "Keeping Men Out of Women's Sports," signed by President Trump, and it prohibits educational institutions receiving federal funding from denying women and girls equal opportunities to participate in sports, preventing male athletes from competing in women's and girls' sports.
Now, the one thing I'll say is that I know they're saying this is that a transgender man and woman whose gender identity differs from them, the sex assigned to them at birth. So in a sense, it's something that's not controlled because it's something that's seen at birth. So is that fair or is that unfair?
So you mean, like by birth, they know? Okay. So I think you're going down a bigger rabbit hole, but I get what you're saying. You're talking about if a man is born and we identify it as a doctor identifies that as a man, they're giving the male gender. But as that baby continues to grow to a kid, teenager, adolescent, the whole time in their mind they're thinking they're female.
Right.
And that's that's why they transgender in the route. So you're talking about just transgender.
But that doesn't change them physically, to me.
No, it doesn't, because what biology, the way they were born scientifically is how their inner, body is gonna work. So I get what you're saying, but you're talking about why people transgender.
Right.
Yes.
And it's not because all of a sudden, boom, I want to be this.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah. It's like
something that happens in birth.
Well, yeah. That's them coming out. Yes. So when they do the physical transition with society, that is their version of coming out, Mike. Right. Yes, they're not. Yes.
Yeah. So we're saying, is it fair or unfair?
No. Okay. So now you're talking about.
No, that's what I'm.
No.
talking
Okay. I get what you're
I
talking
think
about.
I
No. I know what he's talking about. So what you're talking about is it unfair for that individual to not play sports?
Yes.
No. For the person that transgender. All right. So say for example, no. This is why this is a touchy subject.
Yeah.
Because you shouldn't neglect anyone from playing a sport.
Right.
You should never neglect anyone from playing a sport or any of that.
This, I think, has to do with the whole debate of inclusion versus fairness.
Yes. And so
we want to be inclusive to the transgender people, but in terms of fairness and the physical capabilities of men versus female, it's just
exactly. So
there's a huge difference.
That's why I'm saying.
Yeah.
This is what I've always proposed, and I know it's probably not going to happen. And if it does, it's not going to happen maybe till years after we're done.
Make a new category.
Make a new category.
Yeah.
It's literally make a new category for them or anything like that.
That way it's kind of keeping it fair still, and we're still including them.
Because like, for example, the one that I would probably gotten the most questions about, and maybe you too, because we're both in the powerlifting community, is what do you think about when a man transitions to a woman and then they start doing these lifts? And I definitely say it's over. That individual is going to win, So to me, it's one of those where now I don't think we need to get rid of them, because it's one of those where it's like, if they want to lift. If they, we want to encourage everybody to compete. We want to encourage everyone to work on their fitness, regardless of gender, regardless of what you feel or what you identify as. Mm-hmm. But I feel like now we got to look into the science portion of this. If it's something you want to do, we got to create a new category.
I think
that's
so.
exactly
I agree.
what I was saying, thinking at that point that, this is like something that happens at birth. There are probably a lot out there that do play sports.
Yeah, they are.
Because and I think if they did make a separate sporting event for transgenders, a lot more would come out and compete.
Yeah, and it's true, because like I said, there's a lot of the times too. And we're talking about powerlifting. I remember an uncle of mine brought up an article. He knows I love mixed martial arts. He was all like, hey, somewhere in the world, there's this man that transitioned into a woman, and now she's fighting women and beating everybody up. And then we just had that incident at the last Olympics. I don't know.
I can't remember what country it was.
I think she was, but in the last Olympics, I believe she was from India, or I don't know where, but and they all were saying that, hey, and it turned out she was one of the rare cases where I think she was born with both body parts, but her women chromosomes took over more. So that's why she's still considered a woman. And that's very rare. I think hermaphrodite is the term on that one. But it's one of those things. Yeah. But it's the same thing is that, like, the scrutiny that she got was unfair. Because then when we found out, it was like, oh, dude, my bad, you are a woman. It's just you just were born with both parts and whatnot. So it's like,
well, just recently the CIFs, high school CIFs, had a transgender place first, and a lot of parents are in an uproar about it.
Makes sense.
And
It
that's
makes
the thing
sense,
is that
you know?
I think in here in California
Yeah,
it was
it
in
was.
track and field.
Right.
The article came out not too long ago as well.
Two events.
2 events, and that's where I believe it's unfair. I would say let them race, you know, whatever they get, but start a new category for them. If it's obvious that a person has transitioned into a different gender, then just make a new they're going to set the new records. They're going to set the new, because they are starting a new category. So it's like, all right, and wherever for track and field, have them go against whichever. Just all right, you finished first, and then now the real women that finished second, you're first, you're third, and whatnot. So it's what.
Yeah.
But it's because it's really unfair. Like I said, it's what you said. The testosterone levels are going to be always higher from male to female, and testosterone is going to always give an individual more of a physical advantage.
Yeah, even when you start to do the suppression stuff. So it says right here, a 2020 study in the British Journal of Sports Medicine found that even after 12 months of testosterone suppression, trans women still perform better on push-ups and running tests compared to cisgender women.
Oh man, I think we got the same study.
Oh yeah. So another study showed that bone structure and lean mass did not fully normalize after 1 to 3 years of hormone therapy. So they're still going to be at an advantage.
Yeah, because the transitioning from male to female, it does take what's that term called? HRT,
Hormonal replacement therapy.
Yeah, hormonal replacement therapy is pretty much, if a man's trying to transition to a woman, they need to make sure the testosterone levels come down, estrogen levels go up. They say that usually takes maybe between 6 to 12 months for it to finally balance out. But still, regardless, even if it took that long for those levels to balance out, then it's the things that were left behind, you know, your foundation is still going to be high.
Yeah, exactly.
So you think they would they would produce more in the future?
No. They're not trying to produce more.
Before,
yeah,
right?
what they built before.
It's just gonna stay
what they
there.
built before. So, like for example, it's funny because I was looking up stuff too. This was straight from the National Library of Medicine. This study was done. This one was pretty cool. This was a U.S. fitness military database, and this was for the U.S. Air Force studies. The average age of these people were 26 years old. So they had trans women and versus women, and just kind of doing the tests that were needed for the Air Force. So the trans women's, before they started the hormone replacement therapy, and they were already transitioned, they were doing 31% more push-ups, 15% more sit-ups, and 21% faster than cis women. Okay. After 2 years of doing that hormonal replacement therapy and everything leveled out, the differences didn't really level out. And if anything, the only thing that changed closest was that they were about 21% faster. This time they were roughly they were 21% faster before 2 years. After 2 years, they were roughly about 12% faster. So that was the only thing that narrowed down closely. Everything else roughly stayed the same.
We definitely had the same study.
Yeah. So that's why it's just one of those so even after 2 years of doing that hormonal replacement therapy, whatever they had beforehand was still, strong enough to kind of help them elevate their performance and physical.
You think that's a muscle memory?
It could be muscle memory. I mean, it could be.
It could be.
Muscle memory is a big thing.
And that's why. So at the end of the day, we both, all three of us agree that a trans woman, so man to a woman, is going to still have physical advantages over born-based woman.
Yes.
And I think that's just proven by science.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not just our opinion. Like scientifically, that's what they found.
And so now the same thing. We do not think that we got to push them to the side.
For sure.
Include them.
Definitely not.
Have them create their own category.
Yeah. New division.
New division.
Create their own category.
Yeah. And include them, because the same thing is and just have them out there right there
too.
too.
Keep the fairness, between the men and the females. Yeah.
And that's why, like I said, it's one of those where at the end of the day, the science is all going to be based on testosterone levels between man and woman.
Right.
So how you feel about that, Mike?
I feel, I'm against it. I think it's an unfair thing. And they're still trying to push it to be part of the sports, because there's a debate going on right now. But if I was I'm going to sit there and I don't agree.
Yeah, okay. And then, you do say that you agree to make their own category, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. You know, I think a lot more would come out, and it'd be just as competitive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Final words, Kyle.
That's it.
That's it.
No, yeah, we basically nailed it.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think it should be something that should be stretched out. It's something, like I said, once again, the beauty about this, it's our opinion. Okay. If you agree with us, let us know in the comments. If you disagree with us, let us know in the comments. And that way you guys can kind of stir the pot with us and let us know and maybe inform us on something that we might have missed. So that was our quick little, hey, our 2 cents, our opinions on what we feel about it. I'm Coach Cisco.
I'm Coach Michael.
And I'm Coach Kyle.
We'll catch you guys on the next episode.